well, welcome everybody to the next edition of Rally Founder Talks. Jaja, how long you been in business for?
Profitable? Not sure, but I've been in business for like 20 years.
20 years, all right, well, that's good.
You have to be profitable to be in business. I like that.
Right.
That's good.
So the good thing is, what I want you to know about Rally is that we're a social enterprise accelerator. One of the things we're doing is working with early stage ventures to help them become sustainable and then also create positive social change. This program happens to be the way that we do it. And these founder talks for us represent a way of highlighting the talent that we have here in Orlando. And the reason why that's important is because what we're trying to do is make a case on why Orlando should be a hub for social entrepreneurs. So no matter where they're at in their journey, they should take a stop here. And one of the ways we do that is by highlighting the individuals and the resources that we have available down here. And so by the very fact that you've been in business for 20 years, you've been doing something well, and I'm sure you have a lot to offer, considering the average life of a startup. And so that's why you're on the call, man. I'm sure you won't let us down. So I appreciate you being here for us. All right, cool. We can still be friends if you do let me down.
Okay.
But anyway, man, so welcome. Are you at your lakefront house or the house in Orlando? Let's start there.
We sold the lakefront house since we never had it. I'm sitting outside. It's funny. My wife had me buy all this stuff for this office. She's a teacher and she does launch ed. So I can't get any work done because she's talking, with the students and everything. So I'm out out on the porch. So money well spent.
She put you out on the porch. That's what we used to do growing up. We had a dog, and whenever the dog got too loud, we put it on the porch. Like, get out on the porch. So cool, man. Like, tell us. We want to know about where you came from. Let's talk to us about Baby Jaja, and lead us up. The important pieces on what brought Baby Jaja to where you are today.
Man, grew up in Philly, West Philadelphia. I swam pretty much my whole life. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the movie Pride, but that was my swim team. Swam with Jim Ellis. That's how I got to college. My brother got to college as well. My father was strict. He was like, "You're not playing basketball or playing football. You basically live too well to do that. You're not gonna excel in it. So you need to do something, non-traditional." Ended up going to Howard. Was a business major at first. Took accounting like 1 and 2, and I was like, "This ain't for you, man." So kind of got into doing majored in English and philosophy. Thought I was gonna teach or go to law school, but my dad said, "Hey, I bought these companies, why don't you come down to Orlando?" And, not having a plan, went down there, and that was in 97. Yeah, 97. And he sold most of the companies by 2000 and basically asked him, like, "What do you want to do?" And made some good connections. So ended up staying really, and kind of taking it, not from a kind of a semi-startup, but kind of the ground floor, and then, just growing it. And that's how I'm surprisingly, thank God, still here today.
Now your father was in business for quite some time.
Right. So he's different. Well, he's passed now, but Kyle, you met him before, but he's just a different guy. Lost his mom. He was 2. He lost his dad at 17. So he'd pretty much been on his own since he was 17. He used to work. He was a community organizer. He was the Secretary of Administration actually for the state of Pennsylvania under the Shapp administration. During that time, cable was just was new. So he basically said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna have a cable company, put the houses and cars up as collateral, and kind of went for it all. Thank God he won. It scared my mother to death. But he was a very brash, brave guy. He just was kind of like, hey, look, if it doesn't work, we'll figure out something else.
Yeah.
So being around him, he was always an entrepreneur. He just said, having your own business is, your freedom, because he used to say, bread's going to cost something in years to come. Milk's going to cost something in years to come. You never want to be dictated by a person that may be having a bad day and take it out on you. You have to basically control and fulfill your own destiny. So thinking back on when I was preparing, kind of just taking some notes down, I realized I'd never really had a job. I always worked for him. So I never would work for anybody else. I wanted to do that. And I think that's a natural instinct sometimes of kids, that parents may be entrepreneurs. Like, I want to make my own path and blaze my own trail. I mean, that's for some folks, but make the mistakes, make the errors, but not say you can't get fired, but you could really, really mess up. But you're working for your parents. But
I do believe your father would have fired you.
I do too. I really do. I believe he would have. He threatened me quite. He threatened me quite a few times.
I can imagine that. I believe that's true.
But being an entrepreneur is nothing like it. With everybody on the call, it looks sexy to a lot of people outside, but they don't see, sleepless nights, not able to rub two nickels together. How are you going to make payroll? Especially when you succeed, like everybody on the call is going to do. Everybody's, they see a finished product. They don't see the before. They don't see, up nights, try to figure problems out with solutions.
Yeah.
So,
you're absolutely right on that, right? And I think that Ben and I can definitely appreciate that. Let's talk about so entrepreneurship was around you, right? Your father had businesses. You saw kind of how he was rolling. So there's some things that you picked up from that. What we find is that, people have some kind of experience that brings that out of them, right? There's some skill sets and things about a person, their aversion to risk, their desire to like make their own path, manifest their own destiny. And then they're around people who inspire them. Was it your intent was your first business the like where you were the owner? Was it the rebar service, or did you like had a lemonade stand, or was it?
No, it was construction, and rebar was the first business.
Okay.
It was, yeah. I didn't.
Did you have any experience in construction?
None. I didn't aspire to be a business owner. It was kind of by default. I always tell people, just because this is important. You got to have a plan. I don't think I was fortunate enough to have some sort of economic, I guess, fallback if something failed, because the money my dad made from the sale of cable, and I think it kind of just made me rest on my laurels sometimes. I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll do this. But when circumstances changed and the economic changed in the family, I kind of had to be like, okay, man, put your big boy pants on. We got to figure out how to do this thing. So construction rebar was the first thing, but working in the company and working in different sectors of the company, made me understand how, a business works.
Yeah. So your dad did he have a construction and rebar company, or was it something that why construction and rebar?
Well, during the Clinton administration, he was a huge supporter. He was a big fundraiser for him. Bill Clinton during the 90s put a whole bunch of money in construction in Florida. And he basically just filed the money. He wasn't a construction guy. He was just an entrepreneur. He's like, all right, well, this is the money's going, this is where I'm going to go. So he bought companies that, he had like a housing company. He had a construction company, an estimating company, quite a few things. And
what I like about that, he did the same thing with the cable company. And there's a notion there is he saw a customer first, which on the call, sometimes we talk about this where you get enamored with your solution or your product or your idea, but often the most successful entrepreneurs are enamored with the customer base, and then they find a problem that they have. And the customer he found was the government was putting money into the construction industry. So he knew that there was industry there. Same with cable. He knew that there was customers lining up to get in on this. And so he started businesses there. And it's worth, when you're at the ground floor of starting something, making sure you not only have a solution, but you know who your customer is, where they are, and why they're spending money on that.
Definitely.
So that's really cool that he, you hear successful entrepreneurs do that, but you don't always hear the story told that way. So I really appreciate that's what happened. He saw a customer and went there to meet the need that the customer already had. That's great.
Thank you.
So
then the rebar industry, like, I wonder, sometimes I feel like either we did the same thing happen for you where you saw, oh, there's a customer lining up or there's a problem that's not being met? Or was it like, I can do this with a group of people that I'd really like to start this company with? What was the impetus there to go, oh, I'm going to start this company?
It was, I told Kyle this, just by the grace of God, man. It was a cost estimating company that he bought, and the industry changed. I kind of saw it started changing, and I think it started changing more to what they call construction management, and they had their own estimator. So I told my dad, I said, hey man, look, we have to become a general contractor, become a construction manager, and start teaming up with larger companies. At the time, the school board in Orlando had passed this half-cent sales tax. And that's part of it, really. They call it like the politics of economics. You have to follow the trends. You have to follow, okay, in 5 years, they're going to be putting a certain amount of money in like the school board, and they were doing this half-cent sales tax. So we were like, okay, look, we need to start teaming up with companies because we're not going to be able to probably be the prime contractor on the job, but let's team up, build our revenues up, and try to take advantage of it ourselves. And during that time, the market crashed, and
it was 2007.
Yeah, 2000. So about from 2002 to about 2005. I didn't understand, what rebar was or anything like that. I'd heard about it, I'd seen it being put in, but I didn't know it was a business. And during that time, talking to some concrete contractors, and they were like, this is what we're really missing. I was like, well, how does that work? And just talked to a couple of folks, and a lot of the companies that closed down because they were leveraged during the recession. They went out of business, and that's kind of how our rebar business started, just because of the recession. So that politics of economics is just so key. You have to follow those trends. You have to know, what the economic environment you're dealing in, and how to grow, how to scale back, and know the labor force. Unfortunately, it's bad in a bear market. It's bad for the worker or the team member, because you can basically look, I don't have to pay you that high wage anymore because everybody needs a job. When it's a bull market, it's good for everybody. The employer or the employee gets to kind of recoup, from that bear market. So understanding the economic environment and the political environment is just key that I've seen in navigating your business.
Yeah, so that's cool. But what I'm hearing you are naturally doing is, one, you're finding where the opportunity exists, right? And most entrepreneurs just like, okay, where's the customer exist? What is a unique opportunity? For you, it was you saw where the economy was and where things were going, and then you noticed that people, because events were happening, were dropping out, or so there's this rebar needs to go into buildings and roads, and everybody's going bankrupt or falling out because of this condition. And so, although you may not have been intentional, but intuitively you saw that there was an opportunity there. for that to occur. And then you start talking to people to try to understand the business. Now, you didn't have a rebar background, but what was the process of building a team around you that you felt made you comfortable with tackling that business?
It was, again, and this will kind of encompass what I'm going to talk about, your network, making sure you have people around you that genuinely just like you and care about you and make sure you want to do well. My dad he was here before I was, so he had built a pretty good network. So just talking to folks, like I have a business partner. I was doing a project, a home. We were building a home or renovating a home for a lady. She was the worst customer ever. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, man, I'm getting, beat up on this house, whatever. He said, hey man, there's a friend of mine that's going to leave one of the home builders. And he said, you probably want to talk to him. And ended up talking with him. I saw within the first 5-10 minutes, he had that background that I did not have in terms of like operational and just being able to just the nuts and bolts of construction. Because if you remember, I English and philosophy major and minor. So, what I learned is what I learned, but he went to school for it, worked in several construction companies. So we hit it off, and we, at that time I didn't have two nickels to rub together. I said, hey man, look, I'll give you a percentage of the company. Let's go forward from there. He was like, good, because I don't know anybody in Orlando. You seem to know quite a few people. Let's try to make this thing happen. And we've been rolling strong, I think, since 2007. So that's kind of how it started. So your network again, not so much.
Yeah, I really like that. Like we talk about that some, like making sure that you understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, and then finding the right team to come alongside you in that. I also like I used to, like, when I would interview people or think about building a team, I would ask like a lot of questions, about a lot of aspirational questions. And I've started now just asking, tell me about what you've done in the past. Because I just get convinced that now that like the best indicator of the things you'll do in the future is the things you've done at the past. And it might be at a different scale or whatever, but I like that you're like, this guy had demonstrated that he not only knew the industry, but he also knew the types of how to do the types of things I didn't, because he had demonstrated that in the past. And so this is a good, now can we get along and be a good team? Yeah, okay, that's good too. But like, tell me what you've done in the past. Show me how it's worked out for you, because the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. That's really cool. It's good to hear that it's worked out this long. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a relationship like anything. It has its ups and downs, and anybody's going to team up with anybody. Get everything in writing. Everything's all good till you start making money. And that's when people's true colors really come out, and that's just real talk. It's good when everybody's struggling and you're trying to figure out where to eat and how to eat. But once that money starts coming in, you start making some money, you start to see people's true colors. That's unfortunate. And that's just how it is. But as long as you, as my father would say, you live within the four corners of the contract, you shouldn't have a problem. So make sure that, all documentation, all your contracts are supposed to be what they're supposed to be. And there's another thing, don't be afraid to walk away from a deal. You have to love it enough to lose it.
Hey, man, you dropping too many nuggets at one time, right? We got to give them to them in pieces, man. Like,
yeah,
you put the appetizer, you put the meat on there, you put the bread and the dessert, all on the table at the same time. I need you to.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to go back to something you said, which was about, obviously you were wise in your thinking in terms of rounding out, understanding what skill sets you were lacking, finding somebody who complimented you on that deal. And then you talked about the relationship component of it. And one of the things that I know that entrepreneurs, especially in this space that we're in, they get a little lax about the relationship component of it, right? And in this space, it's particularly dangerous because usually why they're entering space is because they both care about something like something, socially, right? So I want to solve homelessness. I want to, and it's like both individuals are in love with that. But then, so that's the easy thing for them to come around. And so then they just go on to work because naturally they just want to be able to give. They're giving to this problem. They're working with each other, and then the real business happens. And what I've learned in my experience is that oftentimes why organizations break up is because of the founders, like relational issues, right? And so what you're saying is that there's a couple components to that, which is one, you got to get past the kumbaya. And I mean, you can still stay there at the kumbaya, but you got to put some structure around the kumbaya, right? And for you said that's the contract work, right? Or putting a contract in place. And so is there anything else that, in terms of just managing the relationship or ensuring that the relationship doesn't go haywire, is there any other wisdom that you have? Okay, so one was contract. Is there anything else?
I think you have to, in the beginning, it's a lot with your gut. You're going to have to figure out, are you aligned, ethically? Are you aligned, morally? Wherever you may be spiritually, those things have to be aligned to. No, you're right. The contract is the contract. But if, like you just said, if somebody wants to solve homelessness and you're like, well, no, we can't, we got work to do. How does that play out? It's a marriage. So you have to, it's every day working on it. So outside of, the agreement or the operating agreement that you have, I think you just, like anything, you have to like the person that you're dealing with, because if not, you're not going to deal with them for too much longer, regardless of how much money you're making, or is it worth it? So it's really just an alignment of values, and it's really alignment of values, man. After the
yeah, no, it's really, you're absolutely right. And one of the things I've advised, we had a group that came through in our first accelerator, and they were going to bring on 3 partners, and they were immediately moving to contract mode, right? Like, let's get the contracts up. A product wasn't even built. They were just talking about ideas and things like that. And I said, here's what's interesting, right? Because it feels to me like there's an order. Like I said, before you move and you spend all this money on contract and assigning out equity and things like that, I said, maybe you should just spend the first 2-3 months just getting to know each other and just really trying to understand like where your hustle is. And then once things starts getting built, then you can start to, then you have enough of an experience with the individuals to understand whether or not you want to work with them or not. And so they actually took that advice, and fortunately, and because of that advice, one of the partners got really wonky and ended up leaving. But the fortunate thing was that they hadn't given that person any equity or any place in the company. And so it didn't end up being a messy thing because nothing was really formed at that point. It was all exploratory, right? And so I really agree with you on this. Ben and I talk about this, is that have talked about this, is that, and he'll talk about it more than I do, but like doing things with people you like, doing things with friends, and it's easier to do things with friends. But definitely doing business with people that you like makes it easier, because it gets, I'm sure I've rubbed Ben wrong, and I know he's rubbed me wrong, but because he's my friend, it keeps, we work through that stuff, and you obviously come out the other end better as a result, right?
Yeah.
I think this question of when to put stuff down on paper, like, is a really tricky one, especially early stage social enterprise startup, because it is so mission driven. There is the kind of good-hearted altruistic nature that that makes it hard to talk specifics about dollars and how we separate if things don't go right. But I like the intention of always having something on paper. I've started thinking that it makes sense to scale what you have on paper. that even when you're starting, maybe you're not even ready to form an LLC yet, you don't want to assign shares, but let's put on paper what our intention is about which pieces of the work each will do and what that corresponds to ownership shares temporary to be reevaluated every 3 months, so that you have some kind of marker that stands, because I feel like friendship is the baseline where, because you're friends, you can let the paperwork drive the conversation. If you're not even friends, someone's going to rip you off no matter what you write on paper, right? And so you got to be friends, but then you need the paperwork to preserve the friendship and make sure that the work continues to happen. But I do think that it makes sense to scale it. So sometimes this conversation of getting incorporated and dividing equity before there's any prospect of dollars coming in the door can stop progress, and it's not helpful. So sometimes it's not helpful to get that level of detail at the very beginning. But something to get the ball rolling, so we're in the pattern of getting down on paper and anticipating that we'll be in revenue generation, and we need to understand who owns what here. I think is important.
So correct. I mean, it's really just roles and responsibilities. That, and that, you know, when you're talking about in the beginning, like who's going to do what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? And have those things kind of written out, and that's part of your operating agreement. But I agree with you, Ben, that you don't talk about money kind of upfront. And if the person that if they do it, then you kind of have to keep your eye on them, I think.
Yeah.
Because like you said, nothing's happening yet. We're talking about, we're putting ourselves in this space where we haven't made any money yet, but the anticipated profit that we may make, and you're already trying to split it up already.
Right.
Are you going to do the marketing? Are you going to do the operations? Are you going to do the finances, the human resource? Like who's going to do what? And then let's kind of go from there. So it definitely has to be spelled out in terms of roles and responsibilities, and that's huge. But the documentation in the construction world is so key. But that documentation, at the end of the day, if you have to go to court before a judge and my notes are better than yours, I'm probably going to win.
Yeah, that's good advice, my man. The one of the things we've always told our founders is as long as I can remember, we've been doing this, is about really understanding like roles and responsibilities and knowing what you're good at, or spelling that out, like you're responsible for this and I'm responsible for this. Because like we've had conversations with people early on. It's like, well, who's the CEO? Like, well, if things went south, like who's the final decision maker? And sometimes, or who does marketing, or who does this, and right, they don't really know, and they're crossing paths. And I get it, like there's some blend together, but at the end of the day, my personal philosophy is that although we both may do this, at the end of the day, somebody needs the buck has to stop with them, right? So if it's marketing, if it's sales, somebody needs to be accountable for those things to keep those things moving. And especially as you become more established, you want those roles really, really defined. So documentation, doing stuff with people really like, or I'm sorry, doing stuff with friends and people that you like. You started to lay some other entrees on the table. What's another nugget of wisdom?
I would always say, I was writing some things down. In terms of with your team, if you're building your team in construction, it's, in my opinion, sometimes you have a whole bunch of get over artists. I've never seen an industry where you have to tell grown people to be somewhere on time, or to come to work. It's the craziest thing ever. Like you have a conversation with men who are 40 and 50 years old of why you didn't come to work yesterday. And if you have, we use a company called Career Source. It's a community-based organization where you can hire, teens, or you can hire, they have an adult program. And it's a total disconnect for the young folks. I say, I'm aging myself, like in their 20s, that they don't show up. And well, I called you and told you I wasn't showing up. Thank you for calling me, but you still didn't show up to work. I'm saying that to say you have to be who you are, but sometimes you have to kind of step out of sometimes of being of comfortability. Cause I think I'm a pretty nice guy, but I sometimes find myself having to be this other Jaja, the Jaja, the nice guy that Kyle we used to hang out, when we were all single. That's that Jaja's fun, but business Jaja, I have to be, sometimes not a jerk, but I have to put my point across to make sure, hey, look, you understand that you're messing with, the company's money, my money, your money, and so don't be afraid to, be uncomfortable. I'm still learning that because you're dealing with sometimes folks that, they're living like all of us, sometimes paycheck to paycheck. So you're dealing with different circumstances in the construction industry. So I'm saying that to say I still try to engage with empathy. I know as soon as they smell weakness, man, they're just going to try to strike, and I think that weakness is you're being empathetic. You're trying to understand the situation. You're trying to talk, reasonable to them. Like I said, I think I found being successful, you just engage with empathy, and the people that understand it are going to be the people that you really want to build your company with, that are not going to try to get over and not trying to say, oh, I'm gonna just, oh, Jed just seems like a nice guy, so I'm just going to tell him anything. He's going to believe it. There was I'll wind that up, but there was the guy who owns Kiki's. Anybody know
You know him?
Huh?
You know him?
Yeah, so I used to go to his restaurant quite a bit. I mean, I don't know him. He wouldn't. I don't know if he invited me over to dinner.
With the gift certificate.
We would talk in his restaurant. Like I see him all the time. So he said, man, whoop your thoroughbreds, not your mules. So I was like, what does that mean? He said, the people that are going to produce, those are your thoroughbreds. Like when you see a horse race, you're whipping a thoroughbred. Those thoroughbreds are going to keep going faster. He said, you whip a mule's going to kick back. Right.
It's such an odd way of saying it, but it's funny.
Your thoroughbreds, man. So
the mule's gonna kick back. I like it.
Don't hire those mules. But but I was saying that to say, jokingly, but just like I said, engage everybody empathetically. You never know what anybody's going through, but you're at the end of the day, you're a business owner. You have to make business decisions. If somebody's not working out, and you have to, if not, you have to step out that comfort zone of being the business owner versus the person you are socially. Do it. It's going to be uncomfortable, but end up doing it.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I totally underestimated when I was starting Credo how much I cared about it, and it was because it was I never. I'd never been, I can't step out of my skin. I had no point of reference until I saw other people working and realized how much less they cared about it than I did.
Oh, right? Yeah. Not their money.
So like it took a while to realize no one's going to care about this as much as I do. And so I can't assume if I hand over a set of responsibilities that they're going to work as hard as at those set of responsibilities as I would have. And so it took a while to realize, oh, you have to set very clear expectations and build a culture where you hold people to those expectations. Even like those expectations have to be set based on how would I handle this if I were in there? Like you really have to think very clearly about what needs to be done and then build a culture where you meet those expectations. It's not okay to not meet those expectations. Otherwise, it gets away from you really quickly. I think that's really wise.
Very much.
I would say that being brave enough to have conversations around tough subjects in businesses, I mean, it's hard enough to do it personally, right? And so you imagine in business having these conversations, and you don't want to come off as a jerk. You don't want to. Like there's all kind of things that play into your mind. And I remember like it took me a while to get to the place where I still am not comfortable, but I'm okay with doing it, right? Like
You'll shift
having.
that quickly. If your money's on the line, you'll get real comfortable with it real quick.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that you can feel the tension in it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's the
It
tension.
depends. It really depends on, there's people in the company, this is honest, the truth. There's some people in the company I like, some people I just don't like because they don't want to do what I tell them to do. And my thing is this, we don't fire anybody, you fire yourself. And one is the joke around the office amongst the managers is like, look, don't fire anybody because you don't want to put them on unemployment. You just don't call them back. So what we do is just say, hey, look, it doesn't say, hey, man, it looks like we're good today. We'll give you a call, next week or something like that. But what I'm saying, like to all the entrepreneurs, and I joke about it, but when your money's on the line, and like you said, Ben, your people don't love it like you do. And that's just the end of the day, because it's like I said, it's not their money. They're like, well, I just get another job, and you're left with whatever mess they may have made. Because you got to remember, at the end of the day, it's your name you're the guarantor. You're you signed for something, personal guarantees or something that you did that's going to ultimately hold you responsible. So to Kyle, what you're saying, you're right. It's still uncomfortable, but like you said, you still have to do it. But
Right.
the more you do it, it will become like, you're like, oh, did I just curse him out? Like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But,
here's a secret that I have is that
Secrets.
when I became more comfortable with having hard conversations there's a show called Hard Knocks, and I've watched it for years, and I've always found it fascinating how NFL coaches can just fire people just like that, right? And it never seems personal to them. They just say, hey, good to come in. I'm glad you're here. Listen, it's just not gonna work out. We're gonna go ahead and put you on the waiver. We're gonna go ahead and waive you today. Susan, take care of your paperwork. Pleasure doing business with you, man. And then they get up, they keep it rolling. And I remember watching that, and I thought to myself, wow, like that's amazing. And one of the coaches is like, listen, it's nothing personal. Just it's professional. People don't want to hear all that stuff. He's like, just get to it. Just be comfortable. If you're gonna have an excellent organization, you're gonna have a lot of hard conversations. It's something you have to get used to. And that really, really resonated with me. And ever since that day, it was easier for me to have conversations around tougher conversations around people. But my whole point in saying all of that is that it does take some time and practice to do that, right? To get to the point. But it's important that you get there and not, because if you don't, then your organization will not grow the way that you expect it to grow.
Yeah, I had to get out of the sense of being, I wanted to be liked versus
right.
Being respected. Those are two different things. People may like you, but if they like you and don't respect you, man, your company's going to kind of go down really quickly. And that's why you have to have, good people around you that really share your vision, and it's incentive based. You reward those folks that do a very, very good job, because you want to keep your thoroughbreds. You want to keep that talent that you have. I try not to call people employees. I call them team members, because if you're a team member, everybody's working for like a marriage. It's the same goal. You're trying to do the same thing. So that's important too. And having those people and I'll switch a little bit to, I was listening to Tim Seneff, is that his name?
Yeah, Tim Seneff.
Tim said something that he was like,
is this your third? Is this the third piece? Is this of your?
Oh yeah, my fault, man. I'm sorry.
Okay,
yeah, I rolled in.
I just want to make sure that we were right. Is this the cornbread or the dessert?
I'm not sure. Are you filled up yet, or?
No. I mean, come on, keep give us the cornbread, man.
So Tim was saying things about. It's funny, Tim. We used to play basketball together. He doesn't remember me. We used to play with Eric.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Tim can ball, man. He's good. But he was saying that his consultant said you didn't do anything in Orlando. He said it hurt to hear that, and make the impact in your community socially, right? get on boards that you think that feed your passion, because that would actually drives your business too. Like I'll give you for instance, I was on the Central Florida YMCA board, the Metro board. You had everybody there from the guy who created Avalon Park, this guy named Biat Kali, to Clarence Otis, who was one of, I think, maybe 5 or 6 African American CEOs. He was a CEO of Darden.
Mhm.
I'll give you, for instance, so when you come on the board, you get a board mentor. And I went out with this gentleman, and we were talking, and his name was Chaz Bales. And he's like, well, what do you do? I said, I'm in construction. He's like, I was like, he's like, that's cool. It's good. I said, well, what do you do? He goes, well, have you ever heard of ABC Liquor? I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, well, yeah, I own that. I was like, what? So from there, we had a great relationship, but it was driven through we had a similar passion in terms of helping the community. So those kind of things help your business. It's not just so much going after your specific customer, but get on those boards or get inserted in the community about things that you really like, because that will also grow your business as well.
Yeah, I think
And
that this is really important, Jaja, and it's something that can be overlooked for social entrepreneurs or nonprofit leaders, because sometimes when we're running a cause-based business, we can figure we've got enough cause. It's the one that we're spending all of our time on. But the reality is that you're trying to build advocates from people that have whole lives, have jobs, have hobbies, and you want them to care about your business. So the idea that you don't have time to care about other problems, under other challenges, other sectors, because you have a full-time job is not fair or even right? Like it's incorrect. And so you are a whole person. I am sure there are other issues besides the one that your nonprofit or social enterprise is working on. You ought to be a person who's engaged in those other issues. And to Jaja's point, as you do, you'll find new opportunities for the project that you're working on. You'll find new advocates for the issues that you care about. This is a like a thing that I have worked hard to live out for the last 10 years, is as you meet people, find ways to do projects with them, because you never know where it's going to go. Find common ground that you care about and be the person who drives each other to action together. And I think, and you never know where it's going to go. And so if you say, I can't care about other issues because I'm working full time on this one, you're dropping all kinds of opportunity on the ground. I really appreciate you bring that out, Jaja. That's a good point.
Yeah,
my father used to say, make friends before you need them. That's just
That's good.
And because you're always going to need somebody to help you in your business, and you may not, which is probably the best thing, because a person that you meet and you never ask them for anything, they're more inclined to help you.
Yeah.
And so get out there, and if you do any kind of sports or anything that you like to do, maybe try to find an organization, do it, because if you find people with the same kind of interests as you, I guarantee it that it's gonna help your business somehow, some way. Maybe not immediately, but comprehensively overall, it will definitely help it.
Make friends. Yeah, I can remember. You're absolutely right about this, and I can remember me becoming a part of other people's causes, and I can think about how those things have led to other opportunities down the road, maybe not directly, but even indirectly, right? So whether it's the YMCA, my involvement over there, whether it's it was this one board I was on called the Future Education Technology Conference, and I started off at a very early stages. I was just putting in time, and then ultimately that ended up turning into a bigger opportunity and put me in circles and gave me credibility in other places that I needed, because I was sitting around tables of people similar. And even recently, a lot of conversations I'm involved in now, it's just simply because I made a conscious effort to come alongside of people and to be friends with people that in places that were outside of my own work, right? Just spending time with them, and it just led me to other opportunities because I made that decision. Now, I mean, yeah, I got enough work on my plate, but I agree with you. Like, you have to find time for other people, and I just think it's the right thing to do. And figure out how you can lend your skill sets to help them out. But then yeah, like the cool thing is that those things potentially have can be fruitful for you either directly or indirectly. So I agree with that a lot.
No, it's so key. Find out what boards, that are, and this is the selfish part. I'm going to say, I'm just trying to keep it, real with everybody. You want to feed your passion, but you also want to find those boards or those community organizations that are big to the county or the city that you live in. If you're trying to meet somebody, or if they're on a certain board, try to get on that board to meet them or go to those meetings, because it just doesn't happen dealing with your customer all the time. It's, dealing with, oh man, I need to meet so-and-so, or, go to meetings that, that are directly related to your business, and sometimes not related to your business, because that person may not be, but they're on a different kind of board. But
yeah.
But I'm saying that to say, just to be, when Tim said that, I was just like, you know what, you're right. You have to be a part of this community. In Orlando, Central Florida is growing, but it's still small. It's a small, big city. So you just have to make that time to do that. And the last kind of, if I can switch a little bit.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add to that, before you give us the dessert, is especially at the early stage, it is already hard enough to create opportunities because you're trying to build a business. And I found that when you're trying to create opportunities, the best ones are the ones that are warm, right? Where people walk you into the deal versus you coming in cold. And I found so I found that the relationships I've had, like, I don't have to do a lot of cold calling or think cold, that because I know enough people that are clear about what I do, I've helped them, have been helpful. They walk me into opportunities that assist me in the development of the work that I'm doing, right? And so as a result, it's just easier. And so like I just want to just double tap on what you said in terms of, building friendships, and getting involved with people's lives. Although we have a lot of work as entrepreneurs, but it's important to the life of not only yourself, but the people in the community you live in, to come alongside of people appropriately. So I just want to double tap on that. All right, man, right. Go ahead. Slide us your pound cake.
Just don't get on too many boards. Don't take too time away from your business, but do something that's a passion. Because once people meet you and everybody on the call, I'm sure it's very nice. They're going to want to pull you in each direction. Well, get on this board, get on that board. Pick about one or two and make sure it's not taking up so much of your time that's taken away from your business.
Yeah.
And the kind of the last thing is that what I learned in business is there's a difference between being busy and being profitable. Like if you're busy, people think, oh man, I'm working, man, that's so far from the truth. So, as they say, work harder, work smarter, not harder. You think you're doing things that are not, or, you find yourself busy, but at the end of the day, you're not making any money. It's really probably counterproductive to what you're trying to do. I know everybody they have a social as a cause in it. And, but at the end of the day, you have to have money to, keep this idea going. Another thing, when I was listening to Tim, he kind of was saying a lot of the things that that kind of mirrored our business. He said talent, capital, and ideas. So you have to have, that capital to make your ideas go, and to keep the talent that you that you have on your team. But just make sure you're not spinning your wheels, because when people are busy, it makes you feel good. Like, oh yeah, I'm getting work done. I'm doing stuff, but if it's not going to the core of your business, it's really just, it's the word superfluous, or I guess irrelevant. So try to make sure to stay on course of what you're trying to do, and don't get pulled in so many directions that like I said, it takes away from your core idea and your core business.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was your pound cake.
That's kind of had all that stuff, what I had. I mean, I was listening to, like I said, a lot of the folks, man. I was just like, whoa, I hope I can keep up with you.
I can tell you get nervous.
You had some major heat on those calls, man. Before you had when you had Nadine, you had Tim, the young lady that started the clothing company. What was
Jennifer? Yeah, Jeanette.
Like, man, I hope I can. I was gonna call out sick, man. I was like, I can't make it today, man. Everybody else is so good.
On that pound cake, man, I like that point because a couple of times I get called out on that. My tendency is just I joke with Kyle that my tendency is to work harder, not smarter. I just put my head down and push on something because I like the feeling of being active. And because I like just getting stuff done, I don't always have a straight line to what's bringing in the money, right? And I think that really successful entrepreneurs understand what brings in the money, and they can prioritize. When you're an entrepreneur, you're always going to have fires burning. And if you just run around and try and put out every fire without any kind of order to it, you are unproductive. But understanding which are the most important fires for profit is, I think, really key. And it also reminds me of this thing that Rajiv said when we talked to him about the busier you get, the more you'll default to the things that you like doing or the things that you understand. And those aren't necessarily always the most important things. So if you don't have something in front of you that's telling you this is the most important thing, it can undercut your productivity or your success or and wise your profit. So really knowing where your money comes from, I think is really important, and what activities drive that.
That's very important, man. That's very important. And another thing is, like, don't let everybody like stress you out. Like you just said,
is this the ice cream?
Figure out what's important, because people will wear you down. You're always going to have fires as an entrepreneur, but you know what's important. Don't get pulled in so many different directions. Stay focused on, this is the fire I need to put out. This other stuff will, it's a controlled burn. It's not going to sink.
I've heard Ben say that before. Ben, you were saying something like that to me before, about fires and sometimes it's okay to let some certain fires keep burning.
Yeah, I hear that advice once.
It's like, it's the problems of an entrepreneur. It'll be there tomorrow. That's how I got to like tomorrow. I was like, it'll be there tomorrow, man. Like, I'm not going to stress myself out over it. You're going to have issues that come up in your business, but guarantee it'll be there tomorrow and the next day. So just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man. You gave us the whole entire meal. You gave us a little appetizer. That was nice. You gave us the steak and potatoes. You gave us a pound cake, and the cool things, you added a scoop of vanilla ice cream to it in the end. At this point, what we're going to do is, now that we fed the entrepreneurs, the fellows, this meal, we're going to open it up to any Q&A or comments that they would like to make.
Sure.
Let's see here. Anybody, any fellows, comments, questions? All good?
Maybe I have a question. Thank you, Wade, for all the insight. I think for us, we kind of have a production company, which is kind of similar to almost what you do. It's almost the same challenges, and we are looking at growing it. I think we still have a lot of questions around how to grow and how to actually control our growth so that it doesn't get out of hand. And I think that's the question. Yeah. So would want any kind of pointers on how you manage that, like growing from a team of, a few people to actually grow into a really big team, and what things you have in mind when you're doing that.
So you're in Uganda, and you have, I wrote a few things down. There's the highest level of unemployment there. So are you trying to find jobs for for women that are looking for work?
So we actually have a production place. We employ women to do tailoring.
Oh,
And currently we have a team of 5 that are tailors. And so far it's been really good, but we are looking at doubling that by next year. So any pointers on?
I
Hey,
would.
Susan, I got a quick question to qualify. I just want to ask: is that when you say that, do you anticipate? Could you say it was similar to construction? Like, do you find that your workers tend to be harder to manage, and you anticipate a management issue as you start to scale up because of? Okay,
Yeah,
I got it
so
now. Okay, so now I see the correlation between what she's saying with their production factor and your like construction workers. Yeah.
So I would ask, how are you finding your team members?
so when it was just 4, it was really easy to manage. We had a really good team. They were all working at a really good pace. Everyone was working efficiently. But as we grow, it becomes more and harder to manage them because now we have 5, but already we are seeing less production than when they were actually 4. And then we are looking at doubling that next year. So that is going to be much harder to manage.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand it. So that's a that's kind of a you're right. That's the same thing we have. Labor is probably the most fickle kind of I'm going to use this bad word, like a commodity almost. You would have to. I would suggest. I don't know how you like maybe go higher, or who amongst Susan and Morgan who is kind of operational and who does maybe the recruitment, because it sounds like as more people you get in, they're going to have to be able to one, meet the production that you set for, the client that you're the client you're working for. So if you say, look, we need to get 15 widgets done by the end of the week, you have to figure out, okay, some kind of math is going to show, hey, if we do this kind of tailoring or whatever, we can get these done in a week. Now you may have to bring somebody in that could maybe train the staff to say, look, no, you guys are doing this the wrong way. It needs to be done this way, quicker and a little bit better. And it may cost a little bit more money to hire the talent to do that. But I think between the two of you, you should be able to get that done. But like I said, finding team members that, like Ben was saying, that care about it as much as you do is going to be tough. But there are people out there that probably just don't want the headaches of being an entrepreneur, but like, look, I want to be a part of a team to help you all grow. So I would probably bring in somebody that maybe, or if you, between you, if you know the operation or who can handle the operation and who's going to handle the recruitment and, some kind of task like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Who you bring on is really important. And when you add foremen, and I think that kind of thing you'll want to think about, and how many people before they need a sub manager. The other thing I've tried to do is like build a culture among a group of 5 to 10 people where you have shared expectations, like the culture where they end up policing themselves. And 2 ways that I do that is I'm very aware of what stories we're telling back to each other. And so I find ways to tell stories that reinforce the values and behavior that I want, and regular intervals to tell those stories back. So we're going to make an assumption that all of our factory workers are these kind of people. And we're going to reinforce that assumption by telling stories about times they've demonstrated that sort of behavior. So, this week we're celebrating that Susan went above and beyond and found this problem in this garment and corrected it. Susan, tell us how you found that problem in the garment. And now once a week, we're telling stories back that reinforce the kind of behavior. So one, what kind of stories are we telling internally? And then the other is, Jaja mentioned this before, but what sort of incentives are we setting up that open up and incentivize the kind of behavior that we want? And they don't always have to be monetary. They could be something else if we're dealing with less cash, but any kind of incentive that says, oh, that reinforces the behavior we want to see, so that you're building a culture where they govern themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see here. Anybody, any other comments, questions?
Ooh.
Just a comment is thanks for all the advice about how to build a good partnership. We started together, well, actually 1 year ago, we agreed to be co-founders. And so we're still in the like honeymoon phase of it all, being excited about the mission. But I think after hearing you, we have a lot of things to talk through, good things, but we would like to be in partnership for 13 years, like you said you've been in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think, you know, one of the things I want to add to that is one of I ran into the issue of a founder who I really liked, and in phases where I started to figure out what the equity, or we were trying to understand what the equity split is, for me, that's where it got tough. And because, and when I do a post-mortem, the reason I believe that's the case is, or one of the reasons I believe that's the case is because what you're doing in the equity component is placing a value on someone. And that feels very messy, or doesn't feel, it feels uncomfortable placing value on someone, saying like, you are valued at 14% or 13% or whatever that is, right? And it's something that you have to get right, simply because if you overvalue someone, then what happens is it creates frustration on your part when they're not living up to the value that's been assigned to them, right? And that can be destructive. And I've experienced that, right? Where I overvalue someone because I was afraid to have a conversation around that, and was constantly frustrated because they were never living into the equity that was given. And so what I found is easy, is helpful, is that there are tools out there that allow you, that you can both agree to and say, hey, here's a tool that we're going to use that allows us to understand where the value is in the work that we do. You know, like, is anybody bringing in money? Do they have the skill set? Are they leading sales calls? Because then it takes and almost assigns the value placing, not that like you're giving it, but this tool is giving it. So it becomes less personal. And when you agree to that tool, which I have to, like, I forget the one that I used at the time, but when you put the numbers in there and it spits it out, it's like, okay, we agreed, this is what it is. And so if you can find a tool that kind of serves as a third party that evaluates you both on what you bring to the table and spits out a value, then that conversation will be easy. But you definitely have to get to that conversation. And the point is, you have to value people, give equity the right way, because it can be problematic if you don't. All right, cool. We got time for one last comment, question. Anybody? We're good to go. Clark Kent, good to go. Charlie in closet, you good to go. Abdullah Obligado, you good to go.
You know what, I just want to, Jaja, I think we have crossed paths before through one of our common friends, but I truly, and you know, I appreciate the talk. It was a real world talk today. Appreciate the struggle and the way you got to where you wanted to be. Also a nice talk on how to prioritize stuff, and you know, just real business world things, right? That some of us have never paid attention to. But of course, I don't want to leave you behind either. I know you mentioned a couple of times that you want to be part of something like this in a social enterprise. I'm pretty sure one of these guys on here would love to bring you on board.
I know now you're making some money.
You know what? Hey guys, listen, if you have no time, I'm pretty sure these guys are looking for some investments. I wanted to put it out, you know, just to make sure that you are in the circle now.
Well, Jaja, listen, man.
Thanks, man.
You did all right. You did good, man. I'm proud of you.
Man, yeah. I was trying to keep the level, man, expectation. You
man,
had a lot of
did
people
great.
on here, but yes, I would. The people you had on here, bro, were man, there were some heavy hitters. The lady from Tupperware,
Right, yeah.
Jennifer, yeah.
I mean, listen, you belong. Like the reason why you're on here is because we consider you a heavy hitter, and so now you're in that echelon. You'll be on the website. You'll be part of them. So you're good to go, man. So I appreciate the dish, the dinner, and the appetizer and the dessert you shared with us today. That was fabulous. I expected nothing less from you.
Okay, good,
I
man.
was satisfied. 5 stars, my man. So I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, man.